Hi, live from New York, it's Ask an Engineer and Ask Massimo from Arduino.cc. Hello.
Hi.
I got Jemma vision. I got
Jemma
Arduino
vision.
vision.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
today's Jemma Day.
Very nice.
when the Jemma hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's Arduino. Welcome to another wonderful weekly Ask Engineer. Today, actually, we have two engineers, not just me, but also a Massimo, who's an engineer as well. So you have twice the engineer for the same price. We got an exciting show tonight. Of course, we have a special guest. We have all these news items, and we have some new products that are beautifully teal. And maybe a photo of a cat later at the end if you're good. So, Mr. Lady Ada, tell them what's on tonight's show.
All right, on tonight's show, the code is Team Arduino CC. That's right. 10% off in the Adafruit store all the way up to 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. Team Arduino CC. All right.
That's a nice little graphic.
That's right.
Nice work.
We're going to talk about what's on the show and tell. We'll go over what letter of the alphabet is part of the show today from Lady Ada's R is for Robots. Pack the mailbag, we'll stop by. We've got the jobs board. We've, of course, got Massimo here from Arduino. We'll be talking about past Arduino, present Arduino, future Arduino, and more, including a lot of exciting announcements and more. Adafruit Learning System tutorials from Adafruit Learning System. Time travel. We'll look at back in the world of hackers, makers, artists, engineers, scientists. We got a video, Whirlpool's video. Have a couple things about 3D printing we want to talk about. As always, we'll have new products. Going to answer your questions. We're going to have a trivia question. All that and more on, you guessed it, Ask an Engineer. Whoops. Sometimes the buttons don't work.
No, it's Adafruit Black. That's cool.
All right. So first up, let's pay some bills. Tonight is Team Arduino CC. That gets you 10% off the Adafruit store, including all Arduino
Arduinos.
products. Yeah, that's right. All the way up to 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. We still take Bitcoins. Can you believe we take Bitcoins, Massimo? That's weird.
You can buy an Arduino with Bitcoin.
Yeah, we're doing it. And then we have our free UPS ground special, $200 more for UPS ground. So
Nice bag.
yeah, have you ever used a Bitcoin for anything? Did you ever play around with that?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I think I have a wallet,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's probably stolen by now. I mean,
No, we took them at peak, and then we're watching, as the value of Bitcoin goes down. But it's interesting. It's like a math toy. It's very fun. All right, we're gonna start it off later. Keep it a little short because we got to get to
I will.
a lot of big stuff. This is our show and tell. Every week we do the show and tell. People from around the world show stuff. What did they show this week?
Okay, we actually had a full house this evening. We had a lot of people show up, starting with Tony D from Adafruit Northwest. He showed off the Raspberry Pi Internet of Things demo that just got released. There's a Windows 10 Internet of Things interface operating system programming language. So he just showed blinking a red LED on Raspberry Pi using the Windows 10 programming like Visual Studio. And Tony D worked for Microsoft. So that's why he just jumped on it. He was like, I would have done this thing if I had still been there. So check out that demo. Noe and Pedro from Adafruit Southeast showed off a couple future projects. They have a hinge for a future laptop-y type project that they 3D printed. A really sweet Zelda shield, also totally 3D printed, probably on a Taz or something. It's gigantic. And then finally, the Pocket Pi gaming platform that we're going to have in a couple of weeks. So check that out. You can get your 3D printer warmed up, and you can make your own little game player emulator. Next up, we had Chris Young, who showed off, and he went to Siberia, which is actually spelled like Cyberi, not Siberia like Russia, like Cyber, which is a hacker makerspace in Cincinnati, and showed off photos of the tour, and they are stacked with awesome tools. So if you're anywhere near Siberia, like the hackerspace, not the endless expanse of nothingness, go there and sign up and use the welders, 3D printers, laser cutters, metal shop, wood shop, like everything they got there. It's awesome. Chris Cortiel came by and showed off a project that he built, which is an electronic zoetrope, which uses 12 of our OLED screens. And the OLEDs flip around in a circle, and they display like a horse or a cat galloping or walking. Cats don't really gallop. And it's all electronics. It's an electronic zoetrope, so it's kind of cool. Shay worked on a Flora NeoPixel fairy godmother dress, which was a last-minute costuming project for a Cinderella show. So 2 of his friends came to him and said, we only have 2 hours. We need to make a glittering fairy godmother dress. And like they did it. So they showed that off, and it was epic, and it worked. It had these removable panels, and it was very smart. Karen and Chris Wanamaker came in with a Raspberry Pi camera demo. So they made their own little camera. So they press the button and it can record and use a Pi
the
TFT.
USB camera from a laptop. That was
Yeah, and they
clever.
showed like, hey, if you can find laptops that are being thrown out because the screen is broken, here's like some stuff you can salvage from them. Richard came by with an Arduino powered Thor hammer that when you hit it, it like lights up and makes noises. And also showed off his embroidery machine experiments. He's experimenting with conductive thread on an embroidery machine. So if you have an embroidery machine and you're like, I wonder if I can make conductive circuits with it, check out his video demo because you might learn a lot, especially some of his techniques for having thread tails. And he actually got it kind of sort of working. So that looks really neat to me. Aiden came by with the Flora plus Velostat soft robot that when you squish the soft robot, it can detect it. So he's working on reactive soft robots. And then C. Scott showed off his Paya Gnome kit that he built in the 70s when he was 12, and now he has a son who's 12, and so he made a Paya Gnome kit for his offspring so that they can continue the tradition and have heirloom Paya Gnome synthesizers.
Okay.
Epic.
Wow.
That was it.
That's a lot of people.
On the show and tell, get as seen on the show and tell sticker. Data, how do they get on the show and tell?
If you would like to show off your project every single Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, you are invited. This is our invitation. All you have to do is go to our Google Plus page at plus.google.com/plus Adafruit. Look for the thread where we have the Adabot and says like, hey, comment here to get added to the show and tell circle. Comment there. We'll right-click on your avatar, add you to the circle, and you'll join the other 500-ish people who are invited every single Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Click early because we fill it fast. You can take 2-3 minutes, get your demo ready, and share with the world.
It works most of the time.
Works most of the time. Thanks, Google.
It's pretty amazing that 7 people in like HD can show their projects.
When it works, it's amazing.
Yeah,
we had
it's
12
pretty cool.
people.
Yeah. Okay. We're working through our coloring book. I think I sent you. You know about the first one we did, right? The E is for electronics. So we did another one. Lady Ada's coloring book. R is for robots. So every week on the show we show the letter of the coloring book. So we're up to O. And O is for obstacle avoidance, and this is a robot from JPL. And last week was nanotech, and the one before that was manufacturing. It was Baxter.
Yeah. Ooh,
and
nice.
So we have we had iRobot. We had Helen, who big news. She has a drone company, and she just started a Kickstarter, $500 drone.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And she's like, hey, we actually got some like engineers. Yeah. And we're like, we're engineering some like new types of drones. So they have like a 6 copter.
It's really neat.
And they're like, you don't have to tilt. It's like it stays level at all times. That's kind of neat.
So, so this is what we do every week. We have a letter from the alphabet. So this week's show is brought to you by the letter O. Yeah. Okay. Let's pack the mailbag. Reads the letters every week. This is our little guy.
It's a happy letter.
Hi.
He's so happy.
Yeah.
I don't contain any sort of legal threats.
Yeah. This is not the mean guy. We don't invite the mean letter guy.
This is a happy letter.
Yeah. This is from Roger. Just so you know, I truly appreciate Lady Ada, Adafruit, and all that you do there to make the exploration of electronics at my level such a joy. You folks rock big time. Warmest regards, Roger. Thank you, Roger.
Thanks, Roger.
We like emails like this. Next up, adafruit.com/jobs. The best place in the world, I think, to post your skills as a maker, or if you're a company, look for someone. And what happened was people kept emailing us, oddly enough, and I can say this because you're here. I need help with, I want to do an Arduino project or something. I want to do programming. Or like, we don't do consulting. So what we did was we came up with a job board. So these people post it. And this one is from Bruce. He's in New York. He says, I'm a lighting designer working for a new gallery. It's in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. The gallery owner would like an outdoor LED matrix sign for the entryway. I do not have the Arduino programming or signaling skills necessary to fabricate the sign myself. So he's looking for a maker to recommend to the owner. So we put up the specs, and so we have a pretty good success rate, and we don't allow recruiters on there. We don't allow spam. So the jobs board are approved by Lamore and I, and then usually companies find the maker that they're looking for, and the makers post their skills, and they find full jobs. So
yeah, I like how this person's very specific. It's like 0.0 feet 9 inches. This is probably the person actually has an idea of what they want, which is good. Way ahead of most.
Okay, so welcome to the show, Massimo.
Yay!
All right, so I'm going to, and we're going to ask you some questions. I'm going to assume just for a minute that no one knows what an Arduino is.
Okay.
So first you have to start out, and I think I'm going to start out with like the classic, like what they imagine an Arduino is. So what is an Arduino? How do you explain it to people?
Well, it's never very, very easy.
Yeah.
But in a way, to me, essentially, Arduino is it's a way to turn electronics into a creative medium that you can use. The issue really is that electronics is seen as something that requires you to have a degree in electronics in order to be able to be creative, to create something with electronics. And Arduino tries to sort of provide a way for people to be creative, even though they don't have like a serious, education.
Like you can paint without going to art school, so why not do electronics without going to engineering school?
Yeah, I mean, the question is obviously you always need electronics engineers. It's not that. But the way is that I think the technology now is powerful enough that you can actually teach people to create useful things for their life or to prototype ideas they have without having to go through 5 years of, or 4 years or 3, depending on where you are in the world, of education before you start blinking LED, which was actually one of the problems, one of the reasons why thank you for calling me an engineer, although I'm not.
Yeah, didn't you do a computer science degree?
I never completed my degree.
Okay, but you started it. It's fine.
I have no formal degree. Also because, I got really bored at university because we were not doing anything. I mean, we were doing like lots of...
So did you want to do projects? Is that what you
wanted?
wanted to do?
I wanted to do projects.
Okay.
And, I did this high school. In Italy, you could choose to have a high school where you study, classical Greek and Latin. You can choose a high school where you can do electronics. So I did the electrical engineering.
That's cool.
high school.
That's good high school.
So I was doing projects all the time. We were building motors and building industrial automation stuff. And then when I went to university, it was all theory.
Yeah.
So, which it's very important, but it's sort of, it's kind of hard to watch people look at formulas all the time. When you like electronics, you want to be able to build stuff. So in a way, I always like that balance between the theory and the making. So in the end, I found the context I think that I like in these design schools where I teach, because in a design school you can teach just enough about electronics and programming so that people can actually be creative, create prototypes, create ideas, and then when they are up and running, they will come and ask you about the theory.
Okay.
Because one of the big problems is that a lot of classes about electronics, they start with, okay, here's an electron, here's an atom. And
it's like 6 months later until you actually get to use a resistor for anything.
Exactly.
They show you like the physics of resistors and you're like, I don't care about rho and phi and VE and like the temperature coefficient, who cares? I just want to like make something happen.
So the problem is that you lose a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because people are like, this is not for me.
Yeah, we say this all the time. If you can't get something from Adafruit and get it working in like 5 to 10 minutes, that's
it.
Yeah, you lost them. So someone had
So
asked.
it's gonna be like 6-second Vine. Like if you can't.
So someone asked in the chat. They said, "I'd really like to hear how you came up with the Arduino." So this is gonna be like Massimo. This is your life. There's this TV show. So what is this? This is something I've had this photo forever, and this is I believe the first Arduino, and this has your name.
This is the first Arduino that like it crawled out of the ocean.
Yeah.
And it has like fins, and it's just like.
And so, how did you come up with this idea, this Arduino? And by the way, can you tell everybody what your role is at Arduino?
Well, I'm currently the CEO of Arduino, but I also do a lot of work on the product design. And again, for Arduino, product design doesn't mean just the electronics, because the electronics, it's just one piece of a larger work that requires you to think about the hardware, the software, the documentation, the user experience, the website. Everything has to be designed together. Because again, when I started teaching, the issue is that you could buy the electronic parts. Yes, you could buy boards that were maybe even more powerful than Arduino, but the problem is that they were all designed mostly for for teaching to engineers. So they would run, the development environment will run only on Windows, Most of it would be proprietary stuff.
Yeah, the dev boards were like this big and they did everything.
Yeah,
and they were like $200 at least.
Yeah, also visually complex. You
Yeah.
look at the board with lots of buttons and connectors, and you lose a lot of people because this is too complex for me. So I did quite a bit of work on prototyping platforms before this thing came out. Then I did this other project we call Programma 2003, which was the first attempt at actually creating some kind of a platform that would be easy to use. That was based on pigs, which were kind of tricky to use. There was no open source C compiler.
Yeah.
So, I went through a number of experiments to actually get. Obviously, I had a very good examples where I was at this place in the northwest of Italy. Actually, there was one of the creators of the processing project was actually just came in as a teacher from the MIT Media Lab.
So just happened to be there.
Yeah, he was one of the.
And processing was really powerful because it was visual programming. It was kind of like, well, you don't need to be a similar problem that you were trying to solve. You don't need to be an engineer to do projects. Well, you don't need to be a computer scientist to do art with computers.
So Ben Fry and Casey Reese did this research at the MIT Media Lab to figure out how you create these development environments, for designer artists. They would have a very simple mental model and would make you productive very, very quickly. So the idea is that you can actually write one single line of code, press the play button, and you get a program that works, which is incredibly important when you teach. You download a file, you double click, you unzip it, you run it, write one line, press a button, something happens, the students say, okay, I think I can do this. While some development environments, they require a long time.
You're like days in.
Yeah, time to set up the
So in
tool
a way,
chain.
Yeah.
we had that example of that kind of mental model. So we thought about, how do you adapt that? So one of my former students did a thesis project, which was based on the processing work, the work I did before. And so to try to translate the processing ideas into hardware. So his name is Hernando Barragan. And so he developed this thing called wiring.
Yeah.
And then, out of the wiring project, the school I wanted to actually develop it as a platform, as a project.
Yeah.
So I had this idea that I wanted it to be open source. And then I was joined at this particular design school by one of the co-founders of Arduino, David Quartierias.
Yeah, I actually have a photo.
I have a picture.
And this is funny because you've known us for a while. And I think I have a piece of history. So this was when you visited us in our apartment in 2010, and this was the entire Arduino team. This is before Lady Ada decided to have pink hair all the time.
I know.
And so
you can tell. You can't even tell it's me.
Yeah. So there's David Mellis, David Cortelius, Tom Igo, Massimo, Lady Ada, and Gianluca. And I also, when you visited, I think I have the only all signature. This is like they're just baseball cards. This is it. This is like a band.
You have the whole.
I have the whole collection, and
cool.
I think that's going to be the only time I can get the whole collection. So I think that's very smart because I want to have an Arduino museum one day, and I would like to put all this stuff there. Do you still have this original Arduino?
Yeah, it's in a box somewhere at home.
Okay, don't lose it.
Don't lose
No,
it.
I
We'll
agree.
need it for the. We're gonna need it for the museum.
One of the early Arduinos is now at the MoMA.
Yeah.
Has been acquired as part of the MoMA permanent collection.
Okay.
And it's actually being exhibited right now.
Okay.
As part of this exhibition they call Humble Masterpieces.
Okay, so you met up with some people.
Yeah.
You have an Arduino team, and then you're like, well, what's next?
Well, the idea was, so we wanted it to be open source.
Okay.
We wanted it to be cross-platform.
Okay.
We wanted the documentation to be really, really approachable by beginners. We wanted
like
to
recipes almost.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
We did a lot of work at the beginning creating a truckload of tutorials
Okay.
for people to really understand how to use the different components, use the different sensors, and also I would say we did spend an incredible amount of time. I mean, at least me and David Quartierias, we traveled around the world for a long time, going to actually teach workshops. Many times we just did it for free, or we just asked people to just fly us to some place.
Were you making the hardware yet, or was it like mostly like on PCBs, or was there all like
At the very beginning, I actually got 300 of these blank PCBs made.
Okay.
And actually, we were using that for the workshops, but it was kind of painful to actually solder them every time.
Was it like the prototype that I showed? Was it like this?
No, it was shaped like the Arduino that you have in the picture.
Okay.
It was already blue, but it was initially was a serial connection.
Yeah.
And then we had also a USB version where I managed to screw up the connections on the USB thing.
No, it's easy because it's like deep and looking in,
yeah.
D plus, D minus.
Well, then so we had to solder the connector in a bit of a funny way, but in the end, we could use it to teach. And so we actually ran the very first workshop in the University of Malmo, where David was teaching.
Okay.
Then we started to use it in my school, and then we started to decide, we have to get somebody that can help us, somebody that can actually help us interface with the factories and get it made.
And I remember, so Lady Ada and I went to Italy, and I found the pick and place that the first Arduinos was made on. This is that first one.
Yeah. So before this machine, actually,
at least that's what I remember.
There were other contract manufacturers, but this is the first. I guess one of the first
such a small little
Yeah,
pick and
so
place.
that made all the Arduinos for a
that's
while.
because that's a device made in Italy. One of the things that you have to understand, which is quite interesting, is the fact that Italy's economy is really based on small and medium companies. So obviously, you're looking at a place that doesn't have a lot of room.
Yeah.
So if you look at a lot of the pick and places, they're actually designed to be
Miniature.
long and sort of put in a chain, so they take a lot of space. While this one
Yeah.
is designed to
No,
be square,
you put it anywhere you want.
so it takes a very little space. And also the programming of this machine can be done essentially programming by example. So you just put the camera on a footprint and you say, do you see that footprint? We'll take this part.
Yeah.
So you don't need the classic programming you do on other pick and place.
Yeah.
You can just teach the machine visually what to do. So it is designed to be fairly simple to use, and it was designed to be.
So then you worked with different manufacturers, and they made Arduinos, and that's kind of when, I guess.
That's like 2005 or
Yeah,
something.
2005 or so. And so I remember when Arduinos, I kept seeing them everywhere, and it was when I was at Make Magazine, and I was like, wow, these people are starting to use them. And I remember there was a couple companies, SparkFun was one, and then I was at Make Magazine, and the big challenge was, how do we find a way to wire money so we can get the Arduinos sent over? That was the biggest problem, because Make wasn't set up yet to do international wiring for
euros,
electronics, and it was very complicated. But we were so motivated that we.
It was a bit messy back then. There wasn't an Arduino company per se yet, so
But we did it.
But we did it, and so Lady Ada, Lamar, what you were doing?
Hello.
You were doing things like shields. There's an ecosystem that's on top of it now. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. So Arduino is starting to take off. People who are artists.
This is back in 2005, 2006.
Yeah, they're starting to use it,
Go
and then
back.
you had additional functionality possible. And
interesting
and
because-
shields, is that how that came about?
Well, the shield was there from the beginning. So actually, the shield comes from the wiring project already.
Okay.
Because at some point, as part of the wiring project, the school where I was at decided to hire somebody to work on extensions to that particular platform.
Okay.
So they hired David Quartierias, which I didn't know at the time. It was recommended by one of the other teachers, Reto. And so David came and we started to work together. David has this story that the first 3 weeks he came to Ivrea, he was in a basement with no heating. He likes to,
suffer for the
tell
art.
this story. But that wasn't exactly true. But the idea is that we already had the first motor shield, and a couple of other shields already existing for.
You want to do like robots and stuff like that?
Yeah. One of the first things was to actually drive this kind of small, simple robot with it and control motors. And actually, one of my students used it to create some kind of a haptic interface, which was part of one of my classes.
Oh, Sandy.
Okay.
Actually, I think it was David Mellis who did that when he was a student.
Good.
So I'm going to fast forward a few years.
Yeah, let's fast forward a few years.
No, this is the timeline. So things are taking off. And I think it hit critical mass for the engineers out there and for the artists when I noticed on AVR Freaks. This was a very early community online. It's called AVR Freaks.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they're around anymore.
I don't know if they're around.
No, they're still there.
They're still there.
Great.
But
Stay there.
But I remember Lady Ada would post on there, and she would talk about Arduino, and they say, "Oh, this Arduino is too easy to use. It's too easy. This isn't hardcore. You should learn every capacitor, everything." And it was a community for people who wanted to spend all the time on that, not actually doing stuff.
Just read the 600-page data sheet. What's so hard about that?
So around 2011, I wrote this article, "Why Arduino won, Why It's Here to Stay," and I had quoted something about AVR. I said basically, these professional engineers are calling it too easy. Guess what? It won. It won, and it's here to stay. There's no going back. It works with a Mac. It's like $30. You can teach it to kids, all these things. And so one of the things I said is whatever comes along afterwards, no matter what, is going to be exactly like Arduino. And then from that time forward, Lady and I have collected a box of Arduino killers, and everyone's trying to do. It's like here's another. They would pitch us.
Everything has to be Arduino compatible now, even if it isn't. It has to say that.
And so here we are. So now it's 4 years later, and you have a new website that you've recently launched. You've had an Arduino Day that just came up.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing because we had, in one way, we come out of the interaction design world. So for us, one of the interesting things is the user experience. So I think one of the main issues that I faced is that a lot of development tools, they don't get enough work on the interaction design side. So the user experience sometimes is a little bit painful.
Yeah.
And there is this perception that in order to be a professional developer, you have to suffer, which there's no reason. Also, there is an issue on the...
David Cortez says he suffered when he developed it. He was the suffering.
The making of the tool, maybe.
He took it on.
Yes, well, Also, you also have to keep into account that people coming from Mediterranean countries tend to be, like Italy, for example, tend to add a little bit of theater.
Okay, good.
But one of the things that I think was key for us was really the user experience, and so we try to evolve in that direction by actually spending some time trying to figure out better ways to communicate or better ways also to, there is hardware out there which is cheaper than Arduino and has more features, but then people stay on Arduino because of the rest. The whole, the hardware is becoming more and more a commodity. A lot of people are just buying whatever compatible stuff online, made in China for $5, and there is no way you can run a company on the revenues from $5 because that's the exact cost of just the parts.
Yeah.
To make the circuit plus, I don't know, there's no margin.
Yeah. What we found is the thing that, specifically Lemoore, that has separated us and allowed us to thrive, I think, is like a very good Arduino company. Like, basically half of what we do is Arduino, at least, is the code and all of the documentation.
Yeah.
And that means people will get that, and then we build accessories around it. We build packs, and we build all these things. And so what we found is the hardware doesn't matter as much unless you're willing to do everything around it.
Yeah.
So
in a way, for example, looking at the way you've always been doing your work, is that there's always a tutorial attached to any piece of hardware.
And this was, by the way, this was totally revolutionary, like 5 years ago. Like the idea of like you sell hardware and there was like a tutorial. Like you remember there was nothing. Like you buy stuff.
You got a data sheet.
You got a data sheet, and then you're lucky. Maybe you can figure out how to use it. But now it's like people expect Arduino libraries and wiring diagrams, tutorials.
Yeah.
They want
Everything
like videos.
we sell has to have Arduino code. Everything. That's a requirement.
And also, if you look at it, there's also a bunch of people that feel like their product needs to be Arduino compatible in order to be acceptable by a wider audience.
Yeah, they want people to tinker with it, expand upon it.
For example, I mentioned this a couple of times. When I designed, when we designed the first Arduino with USB, the one where I screwed up the plus and the minus, I actually copied the circuit from one of your diagrams.
Okay, so I guess it's my fault.
No. Actually, well, there was a bit of a stupidity from my part because your diagram had all the American resistor with the zigzag, and I like the European DIN symbols where the resistor is a rectangle. So I redesigned it to have the European symbols, and in the process,
You should have cloned me better. No,
So I want to get
Sorry.
into some big announcements.
Yeah.
So now here we are. We're almost at the present. You got the new website. You have all the new things going on. You just had a big Arduino day.
Yeah. 260 something.
Yeah.
Event,
This is big. This is an announcement I think that just happened in the last few days. Windows 10 and Arduino, and from what I understand, that Windows 10 is the first Arduino certified operating. What you guys are doing with them. So it's a big deal.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting for me when we started talking to Microsoft about doing some work together, is that there is this perception that Microsoft changed a lot as a company. So the Microsoft you see now, which open sources a piece of code every day. I don't know.
Which is crazy.
They open source their main programming language, the runtime, everything. They open source now a debugger that debugs on different. So in a way, it was interesting to see, how the company has changed a lot, and they have this Windows 10 version called IoT, which is the one that you run on a Raspberry Pi, for example.
Yeah.
Which is really designed to create IoT type devices, and so so we work with them so that you can actually write Arduino code that runs on it.
Okay.
But also, the project is longer as a number of sort of different deliverables that we're gonna work on. We haven't really released everything.
Okay.
At this build conference, Microsoft released some code that allows people who are classic Microsoft developers to use Arduino in their projects because they created a Bluetooth connection between, for example, a phone and an Arduino.
That's cool.
But also they released some code that if you're an Arduino programmer, you can actually talk to a Lumia phone, which I bought at Best Buy for $49,
Okay.
including
Oh, you
the
get
SIM
one.
card.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can actually use all the sensors and all the features of the phone like they were shields on the Arduino.
cool.
Oh, that's cool. That's clever.
So,
Yeah, like cell phone
Okay, so
shield.
that's a big deal.
so there are some, to me, this is important because I believe in open source, and Arduino is an open source hardware, software company. The documentation is released as a Creative Commons, so we believe in openness. And I think that if you're a real open source advocate, what you need to do is to actually reach out to as many people as possible and bring them into your world. And if somebody is making an effort to understand and appreciate and participate in the open source world, you need to actually recognize and connect. And to me, what's very useful, was very interesting in a way when we talked about it, is that there are at least 5 or more million developers who develop on Microsoft technologies.
Yeah.
And
Also,
I think,
most people who use an Arduino, they're on Windows, aren't they?
70% of the people who visit the Arduino website, they are on Windows.
I use
So-
Windows.
Yeah.
So everybody,
Do you have any other interesting statistics about the Arduino website and and how many times? Do you know how many times the Arduino ID is downloaded?
Oh yeah. So in the last 55 days, 1.2 million Arduino ID downloads.
Wow.
Which means about 1 every 3-4 seconds.
Okay, so since we started the show, it's been downloaded.
I downloaded
a
today,
few hundred
and
times.
so did everybody in the team because we wanted to test
Yeah.
164. So
Okay, so I'm gonna continue to skip around here. So with that being said, today, big news: Arduino 164 was released,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of cool things about it.
but the coolest.
The coolest thing is, I don't know if you remember, Massimo, but September of 2013, we went out to dinner. We had drinks. Becky was there. Lamore was there. There are always drinks while I think. And I said, hey, you know what would be really cool? Maybe we have this thing called Jemma. Maybe we could work together and do Arduino Jemma.
Yeah.
And so that was September of 2013.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then we started the
But it's done.
No, but we started the process of making an official Arduino based on Jemma, and there's lots of things that go along. People don't realize it's not just like, shipping
there was
hardware.
also a number of things that happened
Yeah, life
that kind of slow down a lot of the
Really?
things we wanted to do in the last year.
So,
but it's here.
So that's the big news. So the big news is as of today, and we put these in the store right before the show. But this is now shipping. This is the Arduino Jemma. This is, I think, the first Arduino that has all of the Arduino branding and everything that's USA.
There's a logo.
It's made here, and it looks beautiful. It's fantastic. We put it in the store right before the show, and they instantly sold out.
Sweet.
So
we'll make more.
So,
Look,
yeah.
I couldn't put them in the store until I could download 164 and test it, because
Yeah.
boy, it would have been really annoying to sell it, and then you get home and you can't use it. But you can use it now.
So we previously did a collaboration where the micro, it was one of the things that Lady Ada she had worked on some stuff. Arduino worked on stuff, so this was designed with Adafruit. So that was a design with. This is actually a first kind of official.
Yeah, see, this is designed. The hardware, in the Jemma, the hardware comes from Adafruit.
Yeah.
And then we added the branding to it. And now we'll do this work also with the other products that are already made in the US.
Yeah, the
but
other
they don't
ones.
have the full branding. We need to sort of upgrade to that. But this was
It's the first
interesting
one.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay. So
And,
we'll have more tomorrow, but that's a big
Yeah.
deal. It's something that I always wanted to have an Adafruit products eventually migrate into the Arduino ecosystem. So this is the first of many. I hope. I'd like to see maybe Trinket or who knows, whatever else it is, find its way into the ID, because
Let's start with this.
yeah, and that's what we did. We did it. So that one's done.
I think this is also because, just if I can just say one thing,
yeah.
really quick.
Go for
I
it.
mean, the 1.6.something .x IDE to us is very important, because basically what we did, we put all the support for all the processors and the libraries on a server, so that now when you want to install, you remember. But in the past, you guys rightfully complained that, customers were angry because adding a library was very complicated. You had to find a folder, create the folder if it didn't exist, drop a folder.
You have to uncompress it, and sometimes you didn't realize you should uncompress it. Yeah.
Naming mattered.
You have
go
to
to
dashes.
add library, you type a library. We are in the process of adding every single library that you guys made.
Okay.
to
Yep, they're all in
Arduino.
there.
That's a
So you
big
can
deal.
type the name, you can type Adafruit, and you can see all the libraries made by Adafruit. Click, install. If there's new version, you get alerted. And the same with boards. Now you can type Jemma, press a button, and this will download all the files that are needed to support the Jemma.
Okay.
And also, one thing that we decided to do is that instead of trying to close down the IDE so that only the boards that are officially made by Arduino or supported by Arduino are available, we decided to allow anybody to just add whatever. So now, from this version, you can actually go into the preferences, and you can add a URL that points to a file on one
That's
of
so
your
cool.
servers,
Okay.
and it just pulls in all these boards.
So
now,
for Flora, we could have it set up so it can go in. Okay.
you don't have
Sweet.
to release. Basically, the idea is that people don't have to release their versions of the Arduino.
Because there's 5,000 versions. There's
Yeah.
Teensy Arduino, and there's Spark Arduino, and
You
there's
don't need
just,
to
yeah.
anymore. You
So
just-
having one version will be
you
good for
just-
you.
You just
for
tell
everybody.
people to just cut and paste this
Okay.
line of text in the preferences, press a button, and it pulls in all of your.
Like that.
And I think it's important when you do this kind of stuff to really create an ecosystem where everybody participates and gets, gets some space to propose their products and their
Yeah.
ideas.
Okay. So that's the big news. That was the big stuff. And then the other thing I wanted to go
So
over.
download 164 and work out those servers.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, and you just, I don't know how much you can talk about this, but this was posted up on the blog today. This is really interesting. So this is the new create.arduino.cc site. So it looks like you'll be
It's a
able.
sneak peek.
Yeah, it's a sneak peek, and I'm just going to show some of the slides.
Screenshots, yeah.
Yeah, these were posted up today. It looks like a very fun web-based way to teach and learn Arduino. Is that?
Yeah, the idea is that this is a Arduino development environment which is integrated in the website, and in a way it is, I mean, when we created this new development environment for Arduino, the idea was that you could run it from a website as a desktop application and from a device. So the first time we used it was on this Arduino tray, which will see the light of the day at some point. But the idea is to really create an environment where people can log on to their Arduino account on the website, have sketches there. They can actually upload the code from the network onto devices. So for example, this already supports some of the network connected Arduinos. You can push stuff. But we can also add, this is some kind of a small desktop that you get when you log on. So you can have different buttons that point to some of the tutorials. You can also point to partners. You know, we do a number of projects around IoT with Tembu, who are also based here in New York.
Yeah.
So
they do tutorials on our Learn site on how to use all their
Like
services.
Yuns and Arduino Unos.
So the idea is that, for example, you can provide buttons there that kind of go directly to some of these things that people that work with us. So it's a starting point to create an environment where you can also mix the different Arduino sketches with the tutorials and the instructions you need to build them. So mostly to have everything in the same place. So we've been working on it for quite a bit, and so now it's coming out. And then when it's in a beta that people will be able to sign up, then we will also release the source code as usual.
Okay. All right. So we're going to take a little bit of break from Arduino stuff. We're going to do some more of our show. Stick around.
I'm here.
You're here. Before we move on though, is there any other Arduino announcements, any other things that you want to talk about, any word you want to get out? Where are you going to be next if people want to see you?
Well, we're going to be at MakerCon.
Okay, so that's next week?
And also Maker Faire. So I would say the presentation at Maker Faire this year is probably, a lot of people are waiting for that.
Okay.
There's a lot of new stuff that we want to announce and talk about and explain to
But you got to be there.
You got to be there.
You got to be there.
We're going to be here making Arduino Gemmas though, so we're just going to be.
It's going to be streaming.
Yeah, we're going to be making Arduino Gemmas. I think this is one of the fastest sellouts that we've had in our. We put it right before. We're like, we'll have some for the show. Oh, gone. So okay,
good.
So all right, lady, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, first up, before we go on, Team
You really
Arduino
want to try to do
CC.
this in 15 minutes? Oh boy.
Well, what I want you to do.
What are we gonna do?
I want you to do the new products for the week.
Okay, let's do those.
And that might just be it for this week. And we'll save the 3D printing stuff and Becky's video for next week.
Totally.
Because this was a lot of fun.
Okay.
So, ready?
Do.
Okay, let's start with the boring stuff.
Okay.
First one, these are cables.
Yes, but they're very skinny cables. These are HDMI cables that are very thin.
Okay.
And that makes them really great for projects where you have to bend the cable around. So these are just like, they're like as thick as USB cables, but they're full HDMI. And yes, I tested them with like 1080p and they work great. And they're just really skinny. And we have them in all sorts of sizes.
Okay.
Skinny cables.
And then next up, here's something that this is, I'm going to call this like a Lady Ada thing. I like it when you get in tools for use, that you use for testing and for all the electronics, all the things that we do at Adafruit. And then you put them in the store. So these are all sorts of things that you use for testers to actually test all the products.
These are fixture clips.
Yeah. And
you can see them right there. They look like they have googly eyes, but they're actually just bolted onto this PCB. Do you want to try using the overhead, or is it like you think it's not going to... Do you have time?
No.
Okay. Well, we got these fixtures. No. So you have like a PCB and you have a tester, and then like, you have this PCB and you want to test it on this pogo bed, but it's really hard to hold it down for a long time. So what you do is you have these clips and they kind of come in, but what's nice is that they have a spring, so when you press down, they clip in, hold it in place, and then when you're done testing, you can release and remove the board. It's a very nice way to have something on the edge holding down.
Okay, next up.
Fixture clips.
But you're not done yet. You have other testers that you have. So this is one I've seen recently because we're making a whole bunch of these Huzzah boards. And I have a little video I want to play.
Okay.
Merp. Merp. That's sound.
Yeah, that sort of shows
So
how you...
So this presses it down so it holds it with pogo pins, right?
Right. So just like the other one, this one has... The video actually doesn't show it snapping, but you put the board in. And like you don't have enough space for those big fixture clips on this tester. So instead you use one of these and it snaps in and it holds it in place. And
Nice.
it holds the board down right up against the pogo pins very nicely.
Okay. And we actually, here's another neat thing, Massimo, you like this. So we make these PCBs on the other mill. We carve out, we carve out.
Can you go to the big screen, Lee, so I can, because I don't think the small screen you can see this.
Probably not. You might not be able to see it on this one either.
No, I think you can see it. Okay. So, just sort of showing the scale, because that video is so big.
And then last up, we have one more.
Yes.
So this is another one.
This is a teeny one, which we don't really, I didn't bring the demo here, but it's just like a really mini one, and it's just used for, here it's for fade candy. Snaps down, you can snap it up. Again, it just holds something in place. And like having that rubber stopper, it holds it down firmly, but it doesn't mar or crack components, and you can adjust the height and like, do adjusting stuff. And it's really fun, and it works really well. So if you have a tester where you have to hold something down or screw something in, you're tired of it, get one of these clamps.
Okay.
Clamp it.
All right, next up, you put in the modules that we use for the Huzzah. So these are the little low-cost Wi-Fi modules.
Yeah, for people who want to make their own circuit boards, we have a Eagle CAD file item for it in our library, in which we link on the product page. This is a little Wi-Fi module. It does, Wi-Fi is 80 megahertz processor, I think like 32-bit, 4 megabyte of flash in it, and then it has like half a meg of RAM or something. And if you want to just like add this in, it comes installed with Lua, with Node MCU, but you can override it with whatever firmware you like. You can download the toolchain and go to town. But they're just like really easy to solder down onto a board. They have nice big pads. And then I took the cap off of one.
You did?
Yeah, it's the next photo. So you can see that this little processor has the antenna, crystal, and then all the way to the right there's a WinBond 32 megabit chip.
And they're like $6. I mean,
And they're like
incredible.
$6 or $7.
Okay.
So
and then
go
we
town.
we also released the Adafruit Bluefruit LE.
Yeah.
So this
It's
is
only 18 months in the making.
Yeah.
No, well, we got it done.
This is our new little blue.
Yeah, we finally got the 32 kilobyte WATEC modules, and we really wanted to wait till we got those in so that we had the best quality Bluetooth modules. We wanted to have plenty of RAM for when we do updates, because this has over-the-air updates as a bootloader. Oh, hey, that's right. I have to install this. Hold on. Pardon me?
I don't know how it's going to work out, but we'll try.
Whoa, that's not working out. And then
We're going to try to go to the overhead for this.
we're going to try. Okay, let's. Okay. No, I mean, that's working. So I have an LED here, which I can kind of dim. And then here is our iPad app. And I can change the color to red, or I can change it to green. So this is just happening over Bluetooth. I pair the Bluefruit here with, we have an iPad, but it works with iOS or Android. And like, this is just our color picker example. So we have some example demo things that you can already do without having to write any iOS or Android code. For example, we have this color picker, and we don't have a demo for it, and you can't even read it, but we also can get sensor data to your microcontroller through Bluetooth.
Yeah, you can also see like.
Yeah, you can see the demo here.
See a little video.
That's what I just did.
Yeah.
Can you go to the main screen?
Yeah.
So if you have like a phone, you can, or tablet, you can download our app for Android or iOS. And for example, there's like a control pad. So you can, like, basically, if you have a little robot and you want it to just go, you can basically act like it's the control pad, and it will beam wirelessly up to 10 meters or so. We also have, the color picker, which I just showed you, and that was the demo. And then we also have this thing that allows you to take data from the phone and beam it to Bluetooth. So for example, your phone has accelerometer, gyro, magnetometer, GPS. So you can turn on like, quaternion or accelerometer, and you have all these like options, and you can then twist and move your phone or tablet, and that data will be streamed. So you can use this as like your motion controller. Wow. We also have some other things in the app. We have a full tutorial, but like, we have a pin I/O thing where you can turn pins on and off, and we have a UART bridge. So if you just want to send data back and forth, like we did for the scrolling hat, which has LEDs that scroll a message, you would send the text you wanted to say over a phone. So it uses the same app as that. So they kind of go together. The app is free. You have to buy the Bluetooth module, but the Bluetooth module works very well with the app.
We have all the code examples, and so we wanted to have this as the easiest way for makers to do Bluetooth.
And we already have a Bluetooth device in the store, the NRF 8001. but it doesn't have as much capability or power. Like this one is way more programmable. Like you can have it act like an iBeacon or a Yuri, which is the Google beacon. You can also have it act like a heart rate monitor. There's like a standard heart rate monitor type. You can have it act. You can have it like act like things as a profile that you can set. You can set the name. You can like query the temperature. You can control it. It's more of a processor. Like it actually has a processor inside of it, so it's more powerful. And so we're going to be able to do much more because we can write firmware on that rather than just having all of that code set in the Arduino.
From what I understand, this is the first open source firmware.
Firmware's not open source.
Not firmware, the code that goes on it. You don't have to ask anybody, right?
For if you want to write code for the chip on there, you can. Nordic does have it, but it's not open source.
No, the code that we have, because normally you don't have. No.
Usually, I mean, our code for Arduino is released, but also the app code.
Right, that's what I mean. Sorry. There's
that's not firmware.
You don't have, you never have access to the app that.
There's a lot of code.
Yeah. So
no, the app code is available. It's on GitHub. The
Yeah.
firmware is not open source because it's Nordic. It's
we don't
copyright
have
Nordic, so we can't open
have
source
that.
their code. But you can download off of Nordic's site, and you can write your own
Yeah, they
programs.
removed the restriction too that you had to put in the device ID.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. So anyways.
And then, so it's using the NRF 51822, which is a very powerful processor.
Yeah.
And it has over-the-air updates. So we also have from within the app, you can download new firmware, which is kind of sweet.
Yeah.
So like as we have new firmware from K-Town.
It's the most openish Bluetooth stuff that's going on, I think.
We're working on it.
This is hard.
We're doing the best we
This is kind
can.
of like what you were saying about working as if you're in the open source. One of the things is to attract more and bring more people. So we think if we can show these companies who do Bluetooth and everything that there's a big community out
We
there.
definitely didn't have to sign an NDA like we did with CSR.
Yeah.
Like CSR,
That was
we had to
difficult.
we cannot release anything at all. We had to sign an NDA. With Nordic, they're actually like, hey, it's just like not GPL. It's like you can use it, but it's just not. It's not open for it.
So the direction is there.
Yeah.
So,
It's getting better.
So if you're ever interested, maybe one day we can do an Arduino Bluefruit. Okay.
It's blue already.
It's
Teal.
blue already.
Okay. I would like to maybe do an Arduino Bluefruit one day. Okay. All right. So, Lady, that was it. You have
Yay.
to. Very good. All right. So we're gonna folks can start asking some questions in the chat. There's a few that are already queued up. Are you going to be speaking at the Maker Faire in Paris?
The Maker Faire in Paris already happened.
Okay. So did you speak there?
No,
Okay.
I was in the
Maybe next year.
Okay. All right.
I wanted to go, but it was conflicting with this event we participated in a Build conference with Microsoft. So.
The big one that someone asked, of course, is 'cause I did the history of Arduino 5 years back. Where do you think Arduino is going to be 5 years from now? That's the tough one.
No, you're the CEO though. It's just your job.
Where would you like it to be in terms of the products and stuff like that? What would you like?
Well, the issues that we were facing at the moment is that people want to build more and more connected products. But in a way, Arduino created a framework that made it easy for people to create a device with a microcontroller inside. So this kind of answered the challenge that was there in 2002, 2005 when I worked on Arduino. The challenge of 2012, 2015, I guess, is these people wanted to build more and more connected products. I don't think there is right now a very easy to use platform that also includes cloud platform, which is also in a way open source, but also that kind of tackles the same, issues that we try to tackle. That you can be super simple, but yet, by removing some layers, you can go. And also, so I think a lot of the work will be done on tools. It's going to be about development tools and the websites and communities that you cannot touch. More and more development tools become integrated into a community because you develop with support connection with the community. So you need to bring the community inside the development tool more and more. And also, then you need to bring the development environment in the cloud platform. And so there's also more and more people are working in teams that are scattered around the world. So you need to kind of support that as well. So there's a number of, and also, we're working with a number of partners. So one of the challenges is how do you sort of integrate all these different technologies. One of the things I want to do as Arduino is to really act as a bridge try to get all these people who are making their own platforms, which are kind of, closed to the outside world, try to get them to use some open source protocol that we work on to bridge different platforms. Because, the way that the internet was very successful because there were protocols that were open, well documented, and widely used. And in IoT now, what's happening is everybody's trying to build their little, closed environment where there's no interoperability. And I'm not sure you can go very, very far with that.
Okay.
It's not a problem.
Here's a request. Debugging feature planned or thought about for future Arduinos and Arduino IDE?
Yes. So with the Arduino Zero, we start to pull. So on the design of the board, we put in a debugger.
Okay.
So we got this JTAG debugger on it, and we brought in OpenOCD into the environment. So now what's missing is just the UI part. So we're figuring out what's the best way to do it. I was thinking, so we started to experiment a little bit with bounties, so to get the community to,
Oh yeah, that's cool.
to be rewarded for tackling problems that normally. So I'm trying to figure out if it is something that we tackle through a bounty and we get the best implementation from the community, or it is something that but it is planned for now that we have 164 out of the door.
Yeah.
Now the next big thing is to replace the editing component in the IDE to get autocomplete, and one member of the community already did that.
Okay.
So we are integrating his changes. Debugging is in.
Okay.
This is very exciting. A lot of it's happened in the IDE in the last few months. It's moved really fast.
Yeah. Okay. I guess the follow up with that is, do you think there's going to be more Arduinos that run Linux?
Yes.
Okay.
I think. Well, one of the interesting things that, in a way, is what kind of got me to pursue the first Arduino Ion, is the fact that I realized that you can now run Linux in very, 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 very small devices. So the challenge is to try to understand what kind of processors you can use to run Linux, because there's a whole category of people that want to be able to develop using the tools they like. So they want to be able to develop in Python and other languages, and obviously Linux gives you, it's easier to do that through Linux.
Okay. Well, with that, that's the show.
All right.
Really fast. That's it.
Cool.
All right. So, some last things. The code's going to be Team Arduino CC. I guess I should also say thank you everyone who posted up all the photos of their past Arduinos. That was very nice. It was cool to see all the different Arduinos people had perfectly preserved, taken photos. So that tag helped us find it, but now I'm going to use it for all sorts of things. So now tonight it's the discount code. So Team Arduino gets you off 10% off anything in the Adafruit store, including all our Arduino stuff. We ran out of stock on the Gemmas, but we're
going to make more tomorrow.
More tomorrow. A little heads up, if you see Jemma in there tomorrow, the code may or may not still be active. I don't know. If it isn't, don't email me, but if it is, maybe you'll get a discount still. Maybe because we've sold out so fast. Trivia question time tonight, Lady Ada. What are the rules for the trivia question?
Rules are, if you've won something, why don't you just step away from the computer so you don't accidentally answer it. The first person to answer the quiz question correctly in the YouTube or Ustream chat, whichever Mr. Lady Ada sees first, is the winner.
Yeah.
The prize tonight is, of course,
it's going to be a Jemma.
An Arduino Jemma.
Yeah.
Here. There. This one.
Ta-da.
Ding. Ding, ding, ding. Little sparkles all over the place. You will win this. Thank you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing the glam. So what's the question?
The question tonight is, what is the version number of the Arduino IDE on Arduino.cc right now that just came out today? What is the version number? You just have to type it in the chat. The answer is not a Jemma. But what is the version number? So I have to keep going back and forth between these two windows. So whoever types it in first. It's a very important version number. Now you can go to Arduino.cc. You can click download.
Or maybe you're paying attention.
You can look at it, and you can answer. Someone's going to get it. Over 9,000 is not the right answer. Thomas MCM. Congratulations, Thomas MCM.
Thomas MCM, you have won this Jemma. Nice work.
Okay, Thomas MCM won in the chat. Email support@adafruit.com, and mention that you won the Arduino Jemma on the show, and now you'll see all these numbers come in. Bing, 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 bing. Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
But Tommaso's first.
Yeah. All right. That's a big deal.
yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Massimo.
Well, thank you. Also, I want to thank the community which has supported us in the last, few months. There have been some interesting developments in the history of Arduino.
I didn't hear any of those.
But
164 came out.
yeah,
It's exciting.
But the community responds always very well, and this is for me the fact that we have such a strong and passionate community is the most important factor in driving the work that I do. So thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
We couldn't do without you.
There. Okay, so look for some special announcements from MakerCon and Maker Faire next week. And Massimo, thank you once again. I can't wait to have another 5 years of Arduino history as I've run out of room on the slides. But
We've been doing this for a while.
Just think, it all started with this. So thank you for all the work that you did.
No.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. All right. With that, we have a picture of a cat. We have to do it because he's not allowed in the factory anymore, or ever. And here is your moment of Zener.